Today, I will be accompanied by Jack, the host of Locked On Blackhawks, as we talk silly season involving a potential trade package for Alex DeBrincat. There's a lot to discuss in today's episode. Buckle up.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey and also Chicago? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast and also the Locked On Blackhawks podcast. I am Trey Matthews, the host of Locked On Devils. He is Jack Bushman, the host of Locked On Blackhawks, and the start of free agency is fast approaching. However, there is one player who is rumored to be on the move, on his way out of Chicago. I've talked about it in the silly season episode. It is Alex DeBrincat. I've covered about Alex DeBrincat's situation for a couple of episodes, and I'm really glad that we're able to connect and do this crossover and just talk more about the circumstance. But before we begin, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing awesome, dude. Yeah, it's these next couple of weeks, it's been a little bit slow for the Blackhawks since the season ended. They've got their new general manager, or their new head coach in place, I should say, and Luke Richardson. General manager Kyle Davidson came in at the end of last season. So things are starting to come together, and now it's really the first time to see what Kyle Davidson wants to do with this team. And Alex DeBrincat's future is kind of up in the air right now. The NHL draft is just a couple of days away. Blackhawks have some interesting things going on with a couple of pending free agents, Dylan Strome, Dominic Kubalik. So things are about to start picking up here. But the one that's really catching headlines in Chicago and across the rest of the NHL world too is, Alex DeBrincat and his rumored availability. But one thing I will say, Trey, first is that with these so-called rumors that are surrounding Alex DeBrincat and a lot of the Blackhawks right now, I know it has a lot of fans worried here in Chicago, and it certainly has me worried. I mean, Alex DeBrincat is an incredible young player and has already cemented himself as one of the elite pure snipers in the game. But I will say, Kyle Davidson, I like what he's doing right now. Kicking the tires, seeing what is kind of the asking price around the league, what kind of offer he could get. And given the Blackhawks' current situation, they have a really thin prospect pool. They're in the midst of a rebuild. It's probably going to be a patient approach. They'd kind of be foolish not to at least kick the tires and see what the market is at for Alex DeBrincat. Now, I will say it has sounded a little serious, and they're
That's putting it lightly, my friend. I saw the reports, and I'm just like, see, this is one of the reasons why greed is one of the 7 most deadly sins. Because I saw it, and I'm just like, wait, what? They want that for Alex DeBrincat?
Well, listen, here's the real kicker for the Blackhawks in this situation. I said they should be asking around about certain players and seeing what the market is kind of at or what other general managers are thinking at least. They don't absolutely have to trade Alex DeBrincat. And this is the one thing that I believe Kyle Davidson is aware of and knows that he has to his advantage. This is his era with the Chicago Blackhawks now. It's not Stan Bowman making moves, trying to save his job, trying to keep the Blackhawks relevant and not really admitting the problem that he and the team had been facing, which was they had to go into a rebuild. It was something that they had just put to the side for far too long. But with Alex DeBrincat, sure, he could really help get the Blackhawks some assets in the future, but they don't absolutely have to trade him. They don't absolutely have to. They don't have to shove him out the door, and Kyle Davidson knows that. So if another team out there isn't going to offer exactly what they want, then I don't believe Kyle Davidson is going to go through with it. And we heard a rumor from Elliot Friedman earlier in the week, over the weekend actually, that a team out there, he didn't mention exactly what team it was, but had made an offer apparently of 2 first-round picks, one of those being pretty high, along with a mid-level prospect, and the Blackhawks reportedly turned that down. So it's not a complete fire sale, right? I think Kyle Davidson realizes, hey, listen, my back's not against the wall. I'm not in a corner here. I don't have to trade DeBrincat for pennies on the dollar. And so far, it sounds like no team has given Kyle Davidson and the front office alongside him the exact type of offer that he wants. And for me as a Blackhawks fan, that makes me really happy and kind of oddly comfortable and trusting of the new general manager that's in place. It's a weird feeling for a Blackhawks fan to have in Chicago, Trey.
Okay, so Alex DeBrincat, if I recall correctly, he has 1 year remaining on his contract, right? So he has this season, and then he'll be in a restricted free agent?
Yes, he'll be a restricted free agent at the end of this season. But the qualifying offer is the real kind of kicker there. He's gonna be needing to get at least $9 million on that qualifying offer. So it is going to be a little bit of a lofty raise, but at the same time, he's deserving of it, coming off of probably the best all-around season of his career. He hit the 40-goal plateau for the second time, really showed the playmaking side of things as well, and he also kind of rounded out his game and took on more of a defensive role too, and we even saw Alex DeBrincat on the penalty kill from time to time, and I don't know how many 40-goal scorers out there you see killing penalties, so he is worth that raise, but again, the Blackhawks, they don't have to trade him. They could re-sign him if they don't see anything optimal. That's the situation they find themselves in.
Also an all-star this year for Alex DeBrincat, which makes his value go that much higher. So, the thing about Alex DeBrincat, I've talked about it on my show before, which is, yeah, he's a small guy, but at the same time, I'm not really too concerned about it because a team like the New Jersey Devils were actually in the top 10 for average height and also average weight in the NHL. So we're one of the biggest teams in the NHL. So, and if you pair Alex DeBrincat alongside with someone like Nico Hischier, Hischier is a great two-way player. I believe he can definitely put his name into the running for the Selke Award. So if you put him alongside with someone like Nico Hischier, and also you got the big defenseman behind you, someone like Ryan Graves, someone like Dougie Hamilton, Nikita Ohotuk, you got players to basically, quote unquote, hide Alex DeBrincat's size. So one of the issues that I said I don't have with Alex DeBrincat is his overall size. But here's some issues that I do have, which is, yes, you said he's going to be a restricted free agent, the qualifying offer. I get all that. Reality of it is that, 1 year remaining on his contract, which could be a little bit of a risk. And, when looking at the asking price for Alex DeBrincat, I'm not sure how true this is or not, but according to Al Cimaglia, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So it's spelled Cimaglia.
Yeah.
According to his Twitter, he's a Chicago correspondent for NHL Network Radio. He says that he heard that the quote-unquote ask for Alex DeBrincat is basically 3 first-round picks, 1 for this year, 2 more coming in previous years, a high-end younger player who can play in Chicago this season. That's an ask, and if it stays that way, DeBrincat could definitely be here in October for the Blackhawks. So, look, I get after the Seth Jones trade, you guys are definitely looking for a first-round draft pick, and you're desperate to get back into the first round, especially like you said, you're in a rebuild, and the draft is a few days away. I've seen crazier things happen, which is why I wanted to connect with you before the draft occurred, because unless there's like a last-second buzzer beater kind of deal, anything is possible. So, is that true? I think you touched on that before, but basically a first-round draft pick in this year's draft, and then 2 more first-round draft picks in a future draft, and then a high-end player who could play in Chicago, not someone who can play in the AHL and then sometime play in Chicago in like a year or 2, but someone who's ready to make the opening night roster. Is that true?
Yeah, it's I wouldn't say I've heard anything that clear-cut. I know who you're talking about with Al, and he does a lot of good work and good stuff on Twitter. So I have no reason not to believe him or anything, but it does sound like it's something in that ballpark. I would say the first, it depends on each team, but I think in a situation between our 2 teams for the Blackhawks and New Jersey, I think the ask would have to at least start with the 2nd overall pick this year, another first, and then probably that player. And I mean, look, I know you're shaking your head. I get it. It's a high asking price. But at the same time, that's what it's going to take to get Alex DeBrincat. I really 100% believe the only way you're going to take him off of Kyle Davidson's hands is if you absolutely wow him. I think that's the only way he's going to do it, is if you wow him. And We've heard Philadelphia, they took their 5th overall pick off of the table, and I think that immediately rules them out given the Blackhawks situation. Like, yeah, they want to help this rebuild and they want to get the process started, but they're not going to just punt on Alex DeBrincat unless they get an offer that they're really in love with. And again, they're not backed in a situation where they have to say, all right, this is the best we can get. Let's do it now because it's never going to be better. I think if they do trade DeBrincat, now's the time, but that doesn't mean they absolutely have to do it. So I think that's a pretty fair statement. I don't know if it's 3 first-round picks and a player, but I would expect it to have to be at least 2.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, 3 first-round draft picks, I don't think that's going to happen. Like, and I'm not talking about for the Devils' sake. I'm just talking about like NHL's sake. And I get the reason for doing that because they're, like you said, you guys are not exactly in a corner. You're not like a mouse in a corner with a cat facing you. You're not saying like we need to get rid of him ASA now. We could get rid of him,
right.
But how desperate are the Chicago Blackhawks to jumpstart their rebuild? Because I've been hearing reports saying that maybe they were shopping Patrick Kane just a little bit, but I like I said, I don't know how true those rumors are. But I'm just putting it out there, saying like they're curious to see like who can they get for this player and how can it help get their rebuild in full jumpstart.
Yeah, I think they're taking calls on a lot of players, probably not the ones that have the no movement clauses, the Patrick Kanes, Jonathan Taves, Seth Jones. Those are probably the 3 guys they aren't taking calls on right now. And for Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves in particular, their futures are certainly up in the air, but it doesn't sound like the Blackhawks are going to approach them this season about waiving those no movement clauses. They feel that they deserve the respect to, not be not pushed out the door, but they deserve that respect, and they're going to let them kind of do whatever they feel is best for their careers before their contract comes off the books next summer, the same summer that Alex DeBrincat. But I will say the Blackhawks, they're listening, but they're not in a rush. Kyle Davidson, more so than anything else, has come in here and said, listen, we got to do this right. And I don't care if it takes 3, 4, 5, hell, I don't care if it takes longer. We have to do this right. And then really he has no choice given what Stan Bowman left first-round pick in this year's draft, basically no first-round pick in last year's draft. They had the 32nd overall selection, the last pick in the first round. They don't have a very deep prospect pool, especially at the forward position. It's really thin. They got some young defensemen they're hopeful for, but it's not a deep They realize the way to go about that is by being patient, hitting on draft picks, and going about it the right way. And so they want to turn it around. Listen, this is Chicago. It's a original 6 franchise, a big city market. They don't want to be losing for too long here, but Kyle Davidson 100% knows the only way to do this is by being patient, not rushing it whatsoever like we've done in the past, and making sure we take each step, take the time to properly make sure that all those steps are and all the boxes are checked. So it's not a rush, and that's the thing that works for the Blackhawks. And given the Alex DeBrincat situation, it's not like something they absolutely need to do. They can kind of feel it out, and if they don't get an offer they like, I think they can just sit on him and know they have a good young player that they can still build around. So I think it's kind of a win-win situation either way. I personally don't want the Blackhawks to trade DeBrincat, but I would understand if they did. And if they do, given what we've heard the last few days about the offers and what it's going to take to get them, that probably means it was a big haul for the Blackhawks. So I like where they're sitting right now, Trey. And I don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 days, but either way, I feel confident that Kyle Davidson is going to do whatever he feels is best for this rebuilding process and the future of the organization.
What's up, guys? There's more silly season discussion with Jack Bushman of Locked On Blackhawks. But before we continue, I want to give you guys the first and second live read. And the first live read comes from our friends at Built Bar. So from the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift for your taste buds. You've probably tried the amazing Coconut Brownie Chunk Built Bar. But guess what? Your friends at Built have given Coconut Brownie Chunk the puff treatment. That's right. Coconut Brownie Chunk Built Bar flavors you love in a delicious, chewy, marshmallowy, covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. but stop drooling and listen. They are good for you, low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and they are all delicious. Coconut brownie chunk puffs are only here for a limited time, so go to built.com and make sure you don't miss out. They are going fast because they taste that amazingly. So all Built Bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. The best part about Built Puffs is, of course, they taste amazing, but you can enjoy them guilt-free because they are actually good for you. They are the perfect treat, perfect when you got the craving and you need to satisfy your sweet tooth, or if you need a quick healthy snack and are an excellent source of protein. Look no further than Built Bars. So delicious coconut, rich, sweet brownie, creamy marshmallow. Stop fantasizing. Get to built.com and order your box of coconut brownie chunk Built Puffs right now. Go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. And now the second live read comes from our friends at rockauto.com, an OG sponsor of the network. So with the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, or even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? RockAuto.com is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto's prices are reliably low for every consumer. They have everything you need, from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website to find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to RockAuto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How'd You Hear About Us box, so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com, everybody. Okay, let's get back to our discussion with Jack of Locked On Blackhawks, and let's talk more silly season surrounding Alex DeBrincat. Take it away once again. I get you. I understand that. Okay, so I guess let's get into the heart of it, and let's just talk trade kind of thing. Let me throw out a few offers, and let's see how you feel about them. And I know you might not know a lot of the New Jersey Devils prospects, but basically, here's where we stand about trading away our prospects. Now, Tom Fitzgerald, according to some of my insiders, Tom Fitzgerald isn't really big on trading prospects. Like he in the past, in his short tenure here in New Jersey, he hasn't really, made a splash in terms of just trying to obtain a big name player and involving prospects in it. But like I said, I wouldn't put it past him to try to do so, because Tom Fitzgerald has said that he's willing to take this team to another level. And the New Jersey Devils, we're tired of always being knocked out of the regular season. We're tired of missing out on the playoffs. Like we've only made the playoffs once in the past 10 or 11 so years. And the last time we were actually competitive in the playoffs was back in 2012 when we lost in the Stanley Cup Finals. So Tom Fitzgerald definitely does want to take the organization to another level. And I do believe that, he'd be willing to look at someone like Alex DeBrincat and see what the asking price is. Now, in my previous episodes, I've said this. I said Alex DeBrincat is a very good player, and I am not concerned about him fitting in with the New Jersey Devils, despite him being a small guy, because a lot of people were saying oh, Alex DeBrincat is small. There's no reason to get him. We already have enough small players. We're one of the biggest teams in the NHL, and people don't even realize it. They said Alex DeBrincat, he's with players like Patrick Kane, so of course he's going to get his big numbers. Look where New Jersey has, yada, yada, yada. I'm just I think Alex DeBrincat, wherever he goes, he'll make it work.
Hey, one thing I will say, sorry to interrupt you real quick, about Alex DeBrincat's size. I do think come playoff time, there is a little bit to be concerned about, because it's not like it's not that he can't go to the dangerous areas and have success. He plays a feisty game. He's not afraid of anything. He knows the areas to go to in front of the net to score goals, and they're dirty areas. He's not scoring pretty goals all the time. So for people who are uber concerned about his size, I absolutely would not be. This is a guy who has the heart and has the intensity, wants to be one of those scrappers, isn't afraid to mix it up with anyone. He's been in a few fights in his career. He is a little feisty guy. So I do worry maybe if you pair him with a trio, a Jack Hughes, who's a smaller guy too, come playoff time, that line personally, together could get pushed around a little bit, but I wouldn't be flat out super concerned about Alex DeBrincat's size and claim that's the reason why New Jersey shouldn't be interested. So for any of your listeners out there that are concerned about Alex DeBrincat's size, I really would not be whatsoever.
Okay, yeah, you do have a point. Jack Hughes is a small guy himself. That was a concern when he was selected first overall. Moved off the puck very easily during his rookie year. But if Alex DeBrincat was attained by the New Jersey Devils, I don't think he would be paired alongside with Jack Hughes. I think he would be paired on the second line with Nico Hischier because Hischier is a good two-way player. And, maybe you add Tomas Tatar to the line, whatever the case might be, then, you can hide Alex DeBrincat's size. You would put Jesper Bratt on the first line with Jack Hughes because both of them were able to have career years this past year. So that's how I think Lindy Ruff would form it if Alex DeBrincat was added to his roster. Now, when talking about a trade, I'm going to be flat out honest, and I'm not sure if it's going to, disinterest you or whatever the case might be, but the second overall pick is not going to happen. I think the New Jersey Devils are going to hold on to that. Alex DeBrincat, very good player. I don't think he's worth the second overall pick. I think the New Jersey Devils would be aiming for someone like Matthew Tkachuk for the second overall pick, but the chances of that happening are just as high as my chances of going to Pluto and having dinner with the Pope in the next few days. It could happen, but most likely it won't. So, like I said, like Alex DeBrincat, not worth the second overall pick. However, I'll give you a first-round draft pick in next year's draft, which is the draft to have multiple first-round picks. Just because, I think it's a deeper draft class outside the top 5, and this year's draft is not really all that deep. So I'd be willing to give you for Alex DeBrincat, I'll give you a first-round draft pick in next year's NHL draft. I'll give you a second-round draft pick I'll give you our second-round draft pick in this year's draft, and I will give you any prospect that is not named Dawson Mercer, Alexander Holtz, or Luke Hughes. Our prospect pool is deep. We have one of the best prospect pools in the entire NHL. I think we rank number 4. So, there's a lot, and you said you're thin at forwards. We have a lot of forwards that you could choose from. Fabian Zetterlund, he was able to have a big year playing for the New Jersey Devils in the few games he was given. Or someone like Nolan Foote, the son of Adam Foote, struggled this year in Utica, but once he was brought up to the NHL, he was actually able to be somewhat productive. Let's see, who else? AJ Greer, Chase DeLeo also had big years in Utica. So basically, it's like a candy store with our prospects because we have one of the best prospect pools in the entire NHL. And basically, those guys I listed, they've been given NHL chances, and they've actually held their ground quite nicely. Now, if you're in need of maybe a defenseman, look no further than someone like Kevin Ball. Great shot suppressor. He's able to keep the puck alive in the offensive zone for New Jersey Devils. Saw that in the Vegas Golden Knight games, which was one of my favorite games this past year. Nikita Ohotuk. So our prospect pool is deep. And also, I would throw in Pavel Zacha just because I'm trying to get rid of him. So Zacha would just be a throw-in. You have him. I don't care what you do. Bench him, cut him, start him. I don't care. If Zacha's a throw-in, you can have him. But basically, that's where I would start off at. So, I'll give you a first-round draft pick next year's draft. I will give you a second-round draft pick, and I'll give you a prospect, a high-end prospect that's not named Luke Hughes or Alexander Holtz, and not named Dawson Mercer. So Alexander Holtz, I guess, could be debated just a little bit, unlikely. But if I had to choose one of the three, maybe Alexander Holtz, because a lot of fans have been saying that they're a little concerned with how he played in the NHL. I don't really think much of it because we weren't really giving him a chance. But, since he was outplayed by Fabian Zetterlund, maybe Alexander Holtz would, out of those three prospects that I just said that were untouchable, I think fans would be a little more lenient if it was Alexander Holtz, or maybe I'm just drunk or whatever the case might be. But so what do you think of that offer for right now?
Listen, if I'm not getting the second overall pick this year, it's really tough for me to be very interested because you're getting a player in Alex DeBrincat who before being 25 is a 2-time 40 goal scorer, and you're not going to give me the second overall pick in a bad draft. I think if you're not going to be willing to give me that, it's just tough to make the deal work because, listen, you're going to have team control over this guy. Sure, you have to give him the raise or whatever, but you're going to have team control over Alex DeBrincat. We know what kind of player he is. In the draft, you don't know what you're getting. Sure, you could have all the surefire prospects and all the signs pointing the right way, but those players still have to go out there and prove that they're worth that selection. And for the Blackhawks to take on that type of gamble, if you're not putting in the number 2 overall pick, I might just have to shut the door. Listen, it's really tough. Putting Alex Holtz in there does make things a little bit interesting. And for the 2024 first, or the 2023 first, I should say, that's something that absolutely needs to be in there. The Blackhawks, they already have 2 first-round picks in that loaded draft next year.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Protected or unprotected? Because when I did my crossover with Seth of Locked On Wild, I said for Fiala, I'll give you a protected first-round draft pick in next year's draft, just in case like the Devils have a chance to get the first overall pick, in case the season completely flops. But I'm banking on the Devils to improve next year and not be in the situation they are currently in now.
Listen, if you're not offering the number 2 overall pick, that pick next season has to be unprotected. I mean, it has to 100% be unprotected. But even at that point, again, there's no guarantees. Y'all could end up being the worst team in the league this year by a mile, and you could still end up picking 5th. So that still could come back to bite the Blackhawks. And all this comes down to me, Trey. It's just if you're not putting the number 2 out there, it's not an offer that I love. And I think Kyle Davidson, I'm hoping Kyle Davidson is thinking the same way that I'm thinking when I say, if I don't love a deal, I'm not going to trade away the player with the caliber of Alex DeBrincat, man. And it's just tough. If you're not, I think that's where the conversation has to start with me personally with the New Jersey Devils. I think it has to be the number 2 overall pick and a first next year. And after that, I'm not going to ask for too much. I was thinking maybe someone like, who was I looking at here? Tyce Thompson had a good year. I don't know if he's fallen a little bit down in your prospect pool.
Well, I think the thing about Thompson was he got hurt. That's why he's fallen off. He got hurt this past season. He was out for an extended period of time, so that's why he went down a little bit. But his brother currently plays for the Sabres. So
yes, he's a big boy and very good. Probably I watched the Sabres play this year. I was like 6 rows off the glass, dude, and I saw Tage Thompson for the first time. I was like, holy cow, he is a big boy. But getting back to our teams, man, yeah, it's just tough for me to say yes to anything that I don't love. And I love Alex DeBrincat, and I'm not going to give him away for anything less than something I absolutely love, dude. I'm sorry. That's the way it has to be in this type of business for the Blackhawks. Now, if Stan Bowman were still calling the shots, I'd say you have a better chance at fleecing us, but this is Kyle Davidson's team now.
I'm not trying to fleece. I'm trying to make sure I don't get fleeced, because I don't want to be robbed out of 2 first-round draft picks and the Devils have a terrible season next year. And now we're kind of in a situation, we're in shambles right now, because, it's like, well, the one thing I say about the Devils is we have a lot of prospects. We have a lot of young guys with a lot of promise, but still, I'm not putting my money on them to be a wild card team. That's my ceiling for them. But, there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, 100%. But I think if I'm Kyle Davidson, that's where my call has to start, Trey. If number 2 is not there, then listen, I completely accept that. I get why it wouldn't be. I get where your organization is at, and you don't want to part ways with something like that. But if you want a 2-time 40 goal scorer who's only 24 years old, he's just starting to hit the peak of his career, I think that's the type of offer it's going to take to at least take Alex DeBrincat away from the Chicago Blackhawks moving forward, buddy.
Oh, boy. So 2nd overall pick, a first-round draft pick in next year's draft. So if I were to hypothetically, I'm just hypothetically saying this, I'm not saying this is my final offer. So give you the 2nd overall pick. Can that first-round draft pick, I'm not sure if you already answered this or not, can that first-round draft pick please be protected, like top 10 protected?
If you give us the number 2, the top 10, I think protected would be something that could happen. The only thing that I think Kyle Davidson would be concerned about is New Jersey struggles again next season and they don't finish in that top 10, and then the first-round pick moves until 2024 and we miss out on that good draft. I think that would be the only concern. But
yeah, that was the same concern for Seth of Locked On Wild, which is, if we do get our draft pick back, then, then we're kind of
100%.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
But if you do, I don't know if Kyle Davidson would go that route, but if you were willing to give the number 2 pick, then I'm sure that conversation kind of opens up a little bit more, depending on maybe a prospect thrown in there or how it's going to work out or what. But I think putting the number 2 overall pick in there intrigues Kyle Davidson, the Blackhawks, enough to try to make something work.
Oof. Jeez. I don't look. I love Alex DeBrincat. I love what he brings, and I would love to have him on the Devils roster. But I still got to stand by what I say, which is I can't give away the second overall pick, especially if we can possibly get like Uri Slafkovsky, because I'm big on him, or Shane Wright, and maybe even Logan Cooley. I think he's the X factor. But in terms of
I get it, dude. Listen, and this is probably a conversation that Blackhawks general manager Kyle Davidson has had with a lot of folks about a lot of different players. Listen, I get it, but this is where my offer is. And sometimes it happens in business. Sometimes you can't make a deal work. And we'll see if our two teams do in the next couple of days. But we're going to have to see if it feels like something's going to have to budge, or else a deal's not going to be made.
Damn.
I know. Welcome to the business world. It's terrible.
Well, we couldn't get a deal done, guys. He's demanding the second overall pick. I totally understand why. You know, the Blackhawks, they're in desperate need of first-round draft picks after the Seth Jones trade last year. I totally get it, Jack, but I guess we're not. I think we're at an impasse. I think we're a little too far off, and plus, I don't want to give you too many first-round draft picks in the future years. Keep that second overall pick, because I just feel as though that can go horribly awry for the Devils, quite honestly.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from 100%. You got to do what you think is best for your organization, and trading 2 first-round picks in a position like the Devils are, that's probably something that's going to be hard for them to do. So we'll see what happens in these next couple of days, Trey. I do feel like, you know, if something were to get done, it would have to be before the first round starts, because I personally really think if Kyle Davidson isn't getting a high pick in this year's draft, I don't know if he's going to trade Alex DeBrincat for 2, you know, kind of gambles later on next year when we don't know where teams are going to be picking, right? I think Seattle at 5, right? Or Seattle at 4?
Seattle's at 4.
Yeah, so I think Seattle at 4, New Jersey at 2, knowing where those teams are slotted for this year's draft, I think that gives the Blackhawks a little bit of comfort knowing exactly where that pick would be coming, as opposed to trading Alex DeBrincat for a 2023 first and a 2024 first and kind of just having to wait and see where those picks fall down. So it's going to be interesting, though, Trey, and what comes through, buddy. But it was definitely fun chatting with you, as always. And if something goes down, you know we'll be chatting more soon.
Thanks, Jack. So, you know where to find them at Locked On Blackhawks. You know where to find me at Locked On Devils. As I say to all my listeners, I also say it to the lovely people of Chicago. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day. Go Devils for me. Go Blackhawks for him. Jack, sorry we couldn't get a deal done, but just had to ask.
Hey, that's how these things work, and it was a lot of fun to talk about it, dude. So no harm, no foul. I wish Devils and their organization the best of luck in these next couple of days.
Same here for you, too.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you.